So basically, it's a claymation version of the Stallone movie Victory. I'm in.
The leader of the Bronze People, he says if we play this game and beat them at it...
Ooh, nice tight shots.
Oh, Mum.
we can have our valley back.
That's what we want. And if we don't beat them?
Then he said we'll spend the rest of our miserable lives working down a mine.
No! What's a mine?
Early Man is the latest feature-length stop-motion animated film from Nick Park and the geniuses over at Aardman Animation. They do their work one frame at a time. Well, here's what I think about it. 1 point at a time with 5 things you might want to know about Early Man. I guess we'll start here. I try not to throw around the word geniuses lightly. I use it intentionally, and man, the people at Aardman are doing genius work. First of all, let's just talk about the effort it takes to make a stop-motion film that is feature length. You know, I can just turn on a camera and it does all the, still images every, 30 every second. They have to create by hand 30 frames every single second of the movie that they make. I imagine when they look at like the frame rate discussion about going to a higher frame rate, 60 or 120 frames per second, I bet they really start sweating when those conversations start happening. I don't think you're going to see stop motion done at more than 30 frames a second, although that would be really cool. Maybe they'll do it. Then it would only take them 10 years to do a movie instead of 5. Look, these guys are brilliant at what they do. It's all on display here. It's gorgeous. It's creative. It's art that makes a movie, and I love that. The other thing I know I'm always going to get with one of these movies from Nick Park is really great wordplay. I am a sucker for a good pun, and this movie puns well. It understands the idea of how it has to be a double meaning and make sense in both cases. It's not just doing word replacement. It's not silly or cheap. Okay, occasionally it's silly and cheap, but for the most part, it's really thought out and really clever, and you have to actually think about it for a couple seconds at times. That's the kind of wordplay I love. It's the kind of wordplay I aspire to, and I'm always going to give props when people do it well. The other thing I know I'm going to have, and that I always love when I'm dealing with a stop-motion film like this, especially from Aardman, it's going to be really tightly woven. The story's going to be very efficient, very quick. They're going to get to where they're going purposefully. That's not just because that makes a better story, which it does, and they know that. It's because every second they can cut out of the film cuts a lot of work out. So they have like double incentive to create these really tightly woven, quickly told stories. And I've fallen in love with the economy of the way that they use the storytelling movements. And this movie is another great example of that. I guess I can move on to a caution now. I think it's fairly evident. I really enjoyed this movie. But I will say this, and this may be a little bit of a British thing too. This movie doesn't care about being historically accurate. It doesn't care about being real to the truth of how things would have happened dealing with quote-unquote cavemen or the early ages. Doesn't care about any of that. In the same way that Paddington doesn't care, people just react like, oh, it's a talking bear. Look, it's a talking bear. That's kind of normal. It's the same here. It's almost as if there's something about this kind of humor that says, I'm not going to worry about the anachronistic nature of so many things that are happening because I'm more involved in the story. I'm more involved in the fun of what's going on. And when you can adopt that mindset that they have and let those things go, I think you'll enjoy it just fine, but I did want to warn you, let you know it's there. I will go ahead and throw out one negative to this film. I think it retreads a lot of well-worn ground in the area of sports movies. Now, Aardman has done this, I think, of Chicken Run. It exploits a lot of what we've seen in prison escape movies. This kind of does the same thing with sports films. I guess the negative is I want Aardman to create something that feels like it's wholly theirs. And this just feels like it's something that takes all the beats that you know from sports films and puts them into their own story. And I just wanted a little bit more than that. They do a good job with it. It's fine as it is, but I'd like to see a little more originality, a little more creativity, tilt it on its head just a little bit, and I don't think this movie really does that. Overall, though, it's still a really fun watch. I love what they do. It's gorgeous. They're so talented. The work they put into it, it shows on the screen. I give it a solid B+. Thanks for checking out this Your Movie Friend review. We'll get to the Best Ever Challenge here in a bit. Before we do, though, let's connect further. Hit me up on Twitter, Aaron Dicer, Aarondicer. Love the community that's building there. Have a lot of fun hanging out with the peeps on Twitter. Also, the podcast, feel free to join in on that. That's called SiftPop, SiftPop. It's a weekly pop culture podcast. If you do the podcast thing, check it out. If you don't do the podcast thing, maybe now's a good time to start. Make us your first. SiftPop. Just search for it in whatever podcast player you decide to use. I tell you what, follow me on Twitter and I'll even give you a free podcasting lesson on how to listen to SiftPop if you want. And follow on YouTube. Hit subscribe, do the comments, all that kind of fun stuff. Love the community that's building here as well. And thanks to those who support this YouTube channel through Patreon. Couldn't do it without you. Starts at $3 a month. Some fun perks there you might want to check out. It's at patreon.com/yourmoviefriend. All right, let's get on to the Best Ever Challenge, where you name the best movie ever in a particular category. Also try to identify my choice. Let's just do best stop motion animated film. Best movie ever that is stop motion. Doesn't have to be claymation, so to speak, because a lot of stop motions don't use clay. But let us know. Best stop motion animation. Let me know in the comments. As far as mine, here's my clue. I'm going to go with the one where the lead character, his name is also a flavor of ice cream. Take a guess in the comments at mine. First person to get it right does get a point. Leave your choice there as well. And as always, I'll give you a few extra seconds to hit subscribe here on YouTube. Just click my face.